Hey guys, today we're taking a look at the Luxley Timpani, or Timpani. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I think it's Timpani. And this is the new 1x1 LED panel that they have out. Originally, they came out with a 5-inch version, which is called the Viola, and it's an RGB LED light for something like on camera, but you can use it off camera as well. And then they came out with the Cello, which is a kind of a 10-inch wide LED light, and I actually have that lighting this background right now. I have one on each side here, shooting kind of a blue tint on the background. But this is the largest light that they have out so far. This is the 1x1 panel. Again, Luxley specializes in RGB LED lights, so you can choose any color you want. There's also a mode that just lets you go between warm and cool. So if you want to go from your 3200 to 5600, they make it easy. You switch into a different mode and you can choose any color hue you want, hue and saturation. And then on the newer lights, they also have an option for gels. So this light right here has 150 gels built into it, so you can choose a lot of different gels. And that's great when you want to set up a shot and pick one of your favorite gels. You don't have to dial in the exact RGB degree. You just pick the gel that you want. So we'll run through that very quickly later on. So this is a quick look at the Timpani. It's all aluminum in the back here. This thing does get kind of warm, so it acts as a huge heat sink. There are no fans, so it's dead quiet. We have a V-mount connected in the back here with an XLR kind of cable that plugs into the back. Now, I think the reason they do this is because you can choose different plates, possibly, but this is a V-mount version here, and just in case there is a D-tap on this plate also. But anyways, let's kick this on. Now, the first thing you'll notice is when we hit the power button on, it will take a few seconds before this actually boots up. And what we'll do is we'll adjust the brightness here, and we're at 4100K. Now, it does take a little while to boot up, so what you don't want to do is shut it down when you're not using it. I'll show you an example of how to operate this when you don't want the light to be on. Let's say we're at 78%. We're going to use a brightness button here or dial, and then we're going to push it in and it drops down to 0. Now the light is still on technically because you know, it's booted up, but if you want to turn the light back on, just press it in and we return back to that 78%. So sometimes, you know, you're working, you want to move the light, you want to shut it off or shut it down. You don't need to power it off completely. You just hit the button here, it'll turn off the light. And then when you get to your location, or you know, you're moving the light over, you can kick it back on again. It'll jump right back to that 78%. So that's how you would like get the light on and off very quickly. So again, this is your brightness dial over here. Over here, we're going to change color temperature. Now this light can go all the way down to 2800 and all the way up to 10,000. So we can go really cool or really warm. You also have this button here that you can press and it'll jump to those quick presets between 3200 and 5600. Those are the most popular ones, but you can fine tune it by just adjusting this dial. So that's kind of your basic one on the daylight and tungsten. Now they also have a plus or minus green here. So you can click on that and you can adjust how much green cast. And that's possibly if you're trying to match other lights. Now if we click on mode, we're now in the RGB selection mode. So this dial here is going to let us go between the different colors. This will also be your brightness. So here we're going to adjust the brightness all the way up. And you'll see as we rotate this over, we can get to the yellows. And then we go the opposite direction. We're going to the cyans, blues, and purples. Again, if we want to quickly have the light come off, we can just press that button. And then maybe we're talking with the talent. And then when we're ready to shoot, we kick it back on like that. Now, aside from choosing the hue, we can also choose the saturation of the hue. So let's take an example. I'm going to go down to this kind of a deep red over here. And that is the hue that I've selected. Now we click on this button over here and we turn the dial. We can actually change the saturation. So we're desaturating that hue. And that actually works really well because you could choose the exact color you want and then you could pull that color away, and it's not a brightness thing, it's a saturation. So we could choose that, and then again, here's your brightness of the overall light. Now if we hit mode again, we get into the filters. Now we have 150 different filters we could choose from. Again, here's your brightness. Here is your selection. So we could scroll through the different filters and they're all named. So for instance, this is dark blue, just blue, evening blue, true blue, Alice blue, and we can scroll through all the different colors here. Now that's great because if you have a favorite gel here, you can just select that gel. You don't have to dial in the degrees of RGB, you just pick the gel that you want. So I kind of favor the blues a lot, so I could just pick that blue hue. Now aside from that, you can also change the color temperature of the light behind the gel. So if you guys ever use like tungsten lights or you know, CFLs or halogen lights, you can put gels over that, so the light is a different color temperature and that affects what the gel is going to look like. So here we can dial in say 6000 Kelvin and we're on the dark magenta gel. But if I turn this down to say 3200 or 2800, you'll notice the gel will slightly shift as well, because we're changing the color temperature under the gel. So if that makes any sense, but that's a cool feature. Now another option we have in here is the effects. Now we have different effects like color chase, and that can, if we hit play, it will start to kind of chase between two different colors. Now you could change those colors. So we would hit stop here, and then if we want to go to a different mode like explosion, we'll hit the play button here, and it kind of mimics like there's an explosion happening behind the scenes. We have fire, so if we select fire, it will kind of give a little flicker, dim, and you can change these color hues within each of these settings as well. But we also have fireworks. Let's see what fireworks looks like. So it's kind of like an explosion happening there. Lightning is, we'll do a quick flash. Now you can change the settings on how often and the duration and all that in the settings of that. Here's paparazzi. I guess that's like mimicking flashes. So that could be something you could use on a fake red carpet. And then we also have pulsing, which is kind of a slow, gradual in and out between colors. And then there's also siren, which is mimicking a police siren, red and blue. And we also have strobe. Now strobe is just constant flashing. But again, in any of these, you can change the settings. So if I was to go into the, here we have saturation frequency, I can actually select this and speed this up. So it'll flash faster or slower. Now, if you want to turn the effect off, you have to go back in and hit stop. So we've used this light a couple of times. It's actually bright enough to use outdoors as a fill if you walk it in close enough to your subject. So we've used that a couple of times on the brightest possible day you could think of. We had this full blast and we were able to add some fill light to some of our subjects. But a recent shoot we did also was with an American Force Wheels video, where we had a truck inside of a warehouse and we kind of used different colors and a fog machine just to kind of add a little something. So that's typically how you would use some of these lights here, is when you want to add that splash of color. But outside of just using the RGB, it's also great as a 1x1 light for, you know, an interview type setup, because it has very, very high CRI in either tungsten or daylight. They all come with charts, so they're all calibrated individually. It's definitely been a light that we're using more often now, because we don't have to think about bringing gels or mixing light with ambient colors. And we also have that RGB access so that we can get creative with the light. This light also works with the application on your smartphone, and it also works in sync with the other lights that they sell. So whether it be the violas or the cellos or this one, you can actually control all of them together within the app. So you can control everything from colors as a group or individually. You can also apply certain effects to certain ones. So you can have full control with your smartphone app. Anyways, that's a look at the Tympany. If you guys want more information about this, I'll have a link below this video and also on the website, cheesycam.com.